Well, once again, good afternoon and welcome to another training session with me, Dave Collins from Single Point IT. So this afternoon, we're going to be exploring Google Documents and how you can use that as a replacement to Microsoft Word. I will, sorry about that phone call. I will do my best to work you through how you would look at using Microsoft Word as a replacement. Using Google Apps as a replacement for Microsoft Word. In the meantime, while we wait for a few people to potentially join, or if you are joining as we go here, I'm just going to open up the group chat window on the side. Is there any particular skills you would like to learn today, especially how do I do this in Google that I could do in Word? Okay, so there's the question. If you're not sure where the chat is, it's over on the left-hand side. It's a blue button at the top. It should pop open for you and give you the opportunity to ask questions from there. So we've got a fair bit to get through this afternoon. I've got a little bit of a plan, but I'm hoping that in a lot of senses, it could easily take more than half an hour to get through all this, but we'll see how we go for time and work from there. So yeah, just as people are joining for the afternoon, once again, I encourage you, if you have a question that you'd like me to cover today, I am more than happy to modify what the plan is for this afternoon so that you can learn how to do the particular things that you want to be able to do. I will say that I have found Google Drive and Google Documents pretty easy translation. I think because it's quite simple and well laid out. It's got some similarities to Word that I think for a lot of people, making the adjustment across to Google Apps for Education is a pretty easy transfer. I guess the other thing that we should consider when we think about this is why would we want to? Like, if Word is already a really good tool, why would you change across? I think the beauty of the fact that we can collaborate in a really easy way in the Google environment. I know Office 365 has improved significantly in recent times, but if you're wanting to use the Google environment and you want to be able to use the tools that you're used to, it's good just this afternoon to try and translate how would you do the same thing. So I'm going to switch across to so you can see my screen. All right, so you can now hopefully see my screen and we'll be working through this. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm over here, I'm going to go New and Document. And we get set up with a screen that in a lot of senses we're very used to already. It has a number of the icons that we'd expect to see across here in the toolbar. And then we also have all these menus up here. So there's a couple of things that I want to adjust straight away just to make sure that we're in a way that we want it to be. First thing, as always, I'm going to save it, test document for Google training. So here's a nice form. I guess in my environment, normally I would like to maximize that to there. So I've got a couple of options here. I can go to fit and it will expand all the way out to there. Or obviously I can just come in here and grab some of the different percentages and I can type in my own one. So if for some reason I wanted to work at 132%, I could do that. Probably no real clear reason why you'd want to do that, but at least there's an option there. So I think for the training this afternoon, as we move through what we're going to do, I'm going to start in the file menu and then I'm going to work my way across so that we can sort of see what happens there. Once again, if there's any questions as we're going along, shove something in the chat. Hopefully I will notice that and we'll stop and be able to actually look at how it's going. So file menu, I've got a number of options. Now, probably the best thing about Google Drive apps in any way is the sharing button. Now, that's not what we're focused on this afternoon, and near the end, I will go through how to share things a little bit easier, but this is the power that really makes Google Apps an effective collaborative tool, one that really allows for regular feedback for teachers. So we've got a number of things. We're inside here. We have the option from here to go and create any of these 5 here, and we also have the option to go to the template menu. Now, template menu, I'll show you quickly what that is. It is possible for your documents to go and be based on an original template. You can have your own templates that you create. I haven't submitted any at the moment. You've got templates that I've used in the past. And then you also have a template here with whole lots of public ones. So if there's a particular one that you needed for a setup and you wanted to be able to go to it, as you see here, it's got a student certificate. That's pretty handy. I'm not going to do that today, but obviously there's the option to go and look at those templates. And there is also the capacity to create a template for your organization so that appears, which is quite a handy thing. So you can obviously create things from here, but at this point in time, we've already created it. We can also go to open, and it will give us that open menu, and it's got this shared with me and start and all items and the chance to upload something to here directly as we're going along. So once again, we've already opened and created our document, so there's no real reason to do that. Make a copy. Rename is obvious, so we can just change the name up the top, but make a copy is a handy one. That's how the document you've currently got, you might want to make a second version. You want to have a master copy that you want to keep as a teacher, and you might make a second one for the students where you're going to delete things. Make a copy. I thought, oh, I never use that much, but the more and more I use Google Docs, I find that's quite an effective tool. Move to folder and move to bin. So if you have a particular folder you want to move this document into, and obviously the trash one. All right, so what I might do is I'm going to grab an older document that we have here. Here is a document which we've started to play with a few things here. If I look at this previous document that I've got, I can come up here to File, and I can go See Revision History. Right. Now on this particular setup, I have only one person who's edited it, and it's appeared over here. But it is possible to grab a document which has had more than one change, and then you can go back and wind it back to a particular date. So it appears over here you have 3 or 4 dates or different times. You can see more detailed revisions if you need to as well. So you can see here are all the different times that I was editing the document. And if I wanted to click here at 21st of January at 10:52, I can see what it looks like at that particular point in time. And so let's say a student goes in and messes up a document that's very important, and you want to be able to get it back to where it was, or 2 students working together. This is a really effective way of doing it, because you go back and say, all right, we know the document was good at 10:59, and then there's a button here which says restore this revision. And the restore this revision button is really handy because it will basically mean that the document goes back to being that way. So I'm going to close that at the moment and go back to there and go from here. But in a sense, that is probably one of the most powerful buttons in this file menu, is see the revision history. You have a whole lot of languages which you can set here for what you're working in. And if you get to the point where you want to get stuff out of here so that it can be used in other programs, send to Microsoft Word, to open document formats, rich text format as a PDF, if you want to be able to save it as a PDF, plain text, and even a web page. It's a very handy one. Publish to the web. Publish to the web makes a one-page document available out there on the web, which is not for changing. It's just so it can be viewed. So that's a handy one there. And email collaborators. I think this is an important one that can be handy. Currently, I have no collaborators, so I'm just going to share it with my work address. When I do put this in here, I get the chance to email everyone. So I might have released a document that I want 10 people to look at, and I'd like to send them a message saying that any suggestions or changes need to be put into the document by tomorrow. I shared it to you a week ago, but a reminder on that last day. I can come in here and go message all my collaborators, and that's when it will work there. There is an advanced button, but I'll let you look into that if that's some of the things you'll need. All right, file menu, email as an attachment. That will depend on which email program you've got, whether or not that will work easily. But if we do click on this, it basically sends it as if it is your email, and you've given them the option to do that when you've signed up for Google Docs. Here's an important one which a lot of people need to make sure you get right. Your paper sizes and your landscape versus portrait. Even your opportunity to make the background page a different color. You might think, well, why would I bother doing that? Well, in this particular environment, it doesn't really matter what the color of the paper is sometimes, because most of the time you're not going to print these documents out. They're going to be online. And so the need for them to be white is not necessarily true. I know for some students, having things in light blue might make it easier if they've got different types of reading difficulties. So it could be a handy thing to consider. But for today, we could just be boring. Note here, it has the margins for the page. So if I want the margins at the top of the page in centimeters, it is here, 1.5, 1.5, 1.5, and 1.5. I can actually go, that's what I want the default page set up to be. And note that now my cursor has moved up to here, and that's a really handy thing to have. All right, so last thing I guess is that if you really do want to use that format all the time, you can press this button here, set as default. And so then from that point on, that becomes the default document every time you press new. That's what you would expect to get. So every time I go new document, it would be based on what that default is. Print button, I think we're all pretty clear on what that print button will achieve. All right, here's a couple of things which I think are really important. Undo and redo. So let's go here. We'll go hello. Then I'm going to copy it. Give myself 3 or 4. Right, so here we go, hello 4 times. Now if I highlight that first one, and I know there's a quicker way I could do this, but let's just say I need to. And I would like to make that this lovely shade of green there. Now that I've done that, that is now what we call set into here. So I can go undo and it removes it. And then I can come back here and I can go redo and it makes it green again. But then I also have the capacity to highlight another one and go redo as well. And it's not going to remember it this time. So let's try that there, green. I think it's because I've gone back, highlight that and go redo. And so that keeps happening over and over again because it remembers the last action that had happened. And so sometimes I might have a table or a paragraph where I need to change it all to being a whole lot of different options. Because I know there's a shortcut key. Note I'm on a Mac, so that's a Mac key, but quite often that would say Control on a PC. All these options can be shortcuts, which then make it work nice and quickly and very efficiently. So there is the first one, undo and redo. And when I get to tables, I will show you how we can do tables with using the redo, and it can be a very handy thing. So cut, copy, and paste. Note the shortcut keys. Web clipboard can be sometimes very handy when there's certain things that you want to be able to bring in, which is outside of there. Select all. Obviously selects everything, but if you need to make a change to the font, to everything, by coming in here and going select all, or in this case Command A or Control A, that works really nicely. So let's put in a couple of extra ones in here. Goodbye. Goodbye. Now notice that because I changed just the sections in between to green, that went black. This last one stayed green because there's no black later on. There's no beginning and ends. It's a bit tricky, but if you don't like what it's done, it takes a second to fix it. All right, so now that I've got my hellos and goodbyes on the page, back on the edit menu, there's this lovely command called find and replace. So let's say I'm a school teacher and I get a playground duty roster or an exam supervision roster, and I go, where on earth is my name on this thing? I want to know every time I'm going to be on duty. One of the things I can do here is I can just type in my name in find and it will come up like that. And it highlights them all for me so I can find them very quickly. Quite often I don't even use that. I will just press Command F and I get this little pop-up one here. I get hello. My name is hello, even if my name is just hell. I could move in between the ones here, and I think that's a really handy thing to have. But if I do find and replace, I can replace hello with hi, because I feel like I'm being too formal. If I press replace, it changes one. If I press replace all, it replaces them all. And that's I don't know. I know it's very simple. I'm sure you're sitting there going, oh, wow, how easy is that? But at the same time, I want to encourage you to see that next time I have to change a whole word on a student's spelling and they've got it spelled it wrong 15 times incorrectly, that can be a very handy way to do it. All right, some special things here. View menu. We've got mode. We've got 3 different modes. The print layout means basically we look at it as if it was printing. Yep. But here we've got different modes. Now, by default, we're in editing, but we can have a couple of other modes here, which is quite a handy one. So let's just switch to suggesting. When I'm in suggesting mode, more details here. Notice as soon as I start to type, it pops up over here like I've made a comment and a suggestion. And so when I'm working collaboratively with somebody else, now I've made the suggestion, and then the other person gets to look at it and go, oh, do I like that or not? Oh, no, I don't actually like that. I will click that and it will disappear. But if I put in more details, really, and the other person sees it, they can come in here and they can go, click on this and they go, oh, yeah, I think they're right. I agree with that. Tick. Now, I know Track Changes does a very similar thing in Microsoft Word, but I'll be honest, I've never really liked it that much. I like this. I like the way that does that. So we're in a suggesting mode. We can jump back into editing mode straight after it. Rulers, equation toolbars. I'm a maths teacher by trade, and I'm sure there are plenty of maths teachers out there saying, why can't I do it in the way I want to? So I'm just going to go new equation, and I'm going to go here, y is equal to x. Have all these particular symbols here. Okay, so I've got fractions, I've got squares, so I'm going to go x squared. Takes a little bit to get used to. Yeah, I'm not getting it right. But what I guess we want to make sure that we are aware of is that there is some good options. I think what your best option to do is to actually write them first and then move across one. There we go. So I'm starting to get it right there. So it does take a little while to get used to it. Generally, you put in the format that you want first, and then you can fill it out. So let's just do another one here. A new equation. Y equals, and then I'd get to this and I'd go, all right, let's put the square root sign in first, 2. Then I'm going to press to the right arrow on my key, square root of 9. And there we go. That's how it works. I know a lot of mathematicians will not use Google Documents for doing work in class. I wouldn't use it for a lot of work in class because it's a real handwriting type of exercise. But at the same time, just knowing that I can write the question that way if I have to can be a handy thing to know. So the equation editor is available in several ways. You've got the show equation toolbar here. Once it appears, you make it disappear. So if you don't need it, turn it off. Note that there is also an option, just jumping ahead, to insert equation under there. So we're running out of time. A couple of things here. Compact controls makes those things disappear. I can press over here and make them reappear. That can be handy. And then full screen basically gets rid of all of it, and it tells me that I need escape to get out of it. And that can be a handy thing, especially if I'm discussing work and screen size is at a premium. I might want to be able to change that. All right, so insert menu. Heaps of power from this one. Insert menu that I'm sure you've been used to in the past. Image. There are lots of ways to do an image here, including by searching. I clicked on that too quick. There's the dog, and I can go, yep, I want that picture of a dog. And I press select. And it's going to bring in a very big picture of the dog. I can then click on it, and I have a number of different options that are available, including scaling the dog to the size that I'd like the dog to be. And I can then move him around here. We do have a wrap text option, and we can play with a lot of different margins that are available as well. That's certainly one way to do insert a picture. There are a lot of ways too. Note, you can take a snapshot, allow them to use the camera. And I quite like this one because that means that, hello, I'm turning the wrong way. I could take a photo. Now, I can say remember, close, and I can take a photo, and that becomes available straight away. So if I had students working in Google Docs and I had an assignment going or an experiment and I wanted to take a photo, I could just do it with the computer straight away. Don't need that. There are a number of others here. I quite often use the URL if I'm trying to bring in an address I already know. I have my own albums, and I have my own Google Drive where I can access files from as well. So that's a handy way to do it. some other ways to do it shortly. All right. Equations we've already covered, so here's another way of doing equations. Links, a link to another thing. So if I would like students to be able to, within this thing, be able to go www.youtube, so take away my capitals, .com, and if I highlight that, the font I've got selected at the moment only using caps. Let's go back to Arial. Okay, so note it picked up that this is a link anyway, but I could press remove the link. I could make this up here, goodbye, be a link as well. So all I have to do is go insert link, and it has here the text that it will be and where it would like it to go. So I can search, I could say Amazon. So we've got a search there. Now, this is what they click on. This is where it takes them. Okay, so made that there. All right, wow, we're flying through time, so we're going to have to move through a little bit quicker here. All right, one of the frustrations for me in using Google Docs initially was that I couldn't get the same type of desktop publishing control. And to be honest, desktop publishing control becomes really important when you want to be able to get layout exactly right. Now, to be honest, I've started to stop using Word when it comes to doing desktop layouts anyway, and I've moved to Adobe InDesign. So what we teach here at school, and what I think gives me far greater flexibility if I need something pretty. If I need something pretty here, I have this option called drawings. And this drawing section includes the capacity to insert images again. So exactly what we had before. Select the dog. What this allows me to do is to get some finer control over the things that I want. So let's say I now want a text box. I'm going to write dog there. Let's say I would like to be able to get a line, an arrow. I have connectors here, which are quite a handy thing, which does come up in some of those later on. So grab that, click the dog. Let's make it a bit smaller. So note that now when I move things around, there's some great tools here in the drawing program, but I'm not going to be able to get to all of them today, but at least it shows you how you can get a lot more flexibility in trying to create something there. Now that I've created that, that drops into my document and it's a drawing. If I come down here and press edit or I double click, I can go back and make the changes. And so when I want really finer control, I find it's better to just insert the drawing and work from there. All right, let's go for a couple others that are really important. Table. Here's your capacity to add a table, but you also can do it through the table menu, which is where I generally tend to do it. So we'll get to the table menu shortly. Comments. We saw this a little bit before already, but let's say this word really, we'd like to make a comment on it. Several ways I can do it. Insert comment. I can insert a footnote for it. I can also use some special characters or some horizontal lines. But I can just also click comment here and go, great idea. Apply. And I'm starting to build up these comments pretty quickly. Not showing at the moment. No, here we go. Really good idea. And so it sits on this side of the page, gives a resolve button, allows people to edit it, well, allows me to edit things that I've written. So I can work through that, and that can be a handy way of looking at that. Okay, so that's comments. Note there are footnotes, special characters, there are page numbers and page counts, headers. None of these things didn't exist in the first early versions of Google Documents, but they've been added in, and this can be a really handy way. If I get the chance, I'll come to table of contents later on, but I've got a few other really important ones I want to do. A lot of the formatting things that we're used to are here. Then there's this thing called paragraph styles. Now I want to just show you a little bit what you can do with paragraph styles. So this is here has been set up as text. If I come here and click normal text, it will change it back to the default style, which is Arial 11 font. And I can come here and go, all right, now it's Arial, I want to make it 12. And if I grab this as well, this is still normal text as well. So it applies to that sort of stuff there. And what I'd like to be able to do is I'd like to be able to change what the default style is so that all of these have the same look and feel. So normal text, I'm going to go in here and I've got a couple options. I can apply the original normal text, or I can update what normal text is. So let's say, for example, we're going to go to Arial 12-point font. I'm going to update normal text to match. So now that that's done there, I can go grab that. Okay. Now, if I come to other stuff and I go normal text, note how it's now size 12 and not 11. It's remembered what that particular one is. So there's all these built-in styles that I have here that allow you to use them. So for example, I quite like having a heading 1, but I like, especially because my school has a blue color, I like going, well, it doesn't matter, it costs me anything more to print something out with some color on it, make my pages look interesting. So that's a heading there. And what I've got here now is I've got a heading that was originally in that particular color black. I can now go update heading 1 to match. And so if I come down here and go, this is another heading, I can go, just keep clicking on that. And I also have the capacity at some other stage to come in here and to be able to basically make the whole document match with that there. Paragraph styles, options, number of options here, update, subtitle match, apply subtitle. It can be a really handy way of being able to control the look and feel of the documents that you want. All right, the thing that was missing when we initially started with this in Google Docs, something that we need to look at very quickly, but then we'll put it, is that we never had tables. And that if we had tables, then it was really hard to use. So still a problem occasionally on some devices, but even iPads now using the Google Docs app will allow this to work pretty well. So let me go a 3x4 table. I can play with, obviously, with the margins here. To be able to color a cell, if you come up here to table and go table properties, you can then get and change the background color of a cell. And so this is where the redo button that I suggested before is really handy, because I click in another cell and if I go edit and redo, I'm using the shortcut keys for that, I can set certain cells to have color very quickly. Note that I also can come in here, table properties, and I would like the border for this section to be thicker. Oh no, it's done the whole thing. So you can't do just the smaller sections, and that is one of those occasions where you sort of go, well, Word would have let me have a little bit more nuance, but at the same time, I'm getting a lot of collaborative tools, which are excellent as well. Table alignment, column widths, you can actually control the numbers if you want to from there. Vertical alignment, and so when you type in here, it would align differently if we had set that up properly. All right, let's look at some of the most important ones left. Okay, so the table menu, you can come in here and merge 2 cells together. You can also then later on, if you need to, you can unmerge the cells, but you can basically set up the format that you want. Do it from there. One of the other things I quite often like to do is once I've got all my stuff laid out the way I want it to be, I quite often get rid of the table from being seen. And so I come in here and then I go, all right, well, I actually want it to have 0-point borders. And then you've just got it laid out in the way that you want it to be. All right, let's look at a couple of quick last ones. 2 minutes left. Let's see, which one would we prefer to do? I love the research tool. Let's have a look at this. If I need images, in fact, this is my preferred way for doing images. So if we do the same thing with dog, it gives me a collection of them here. So let's just grab that dog. It's having some problems. Let's dismiss that. Delete that one. Let's try that dog. Okay, and another dog. And note that it's putting these footnote numbers here automatically for me. So if I go down to the bottom here, the image address has been kept. And that for me is fantastic. I've got a number of options here when it comes to the research menu. I could go to dictionary and define what a dog is. And that's a handy thing for me to have. And obviously I can then just highlight that and I can then use other things within the document. There's also an option for everything. So I can just search on dogs. And over here, if I click on this, I can go preview, I can see it. I can insert a link to it. I can cite that page that I got information from there. And I can basically grab a whole lot of information from there. So that's a really handy thing there to be able to do. A couple of last minute ones. What have we got left time to do? Look, honestly, if you'd like to get in touch with me, I'm more than happy to do some specific examples of how we can get through here. There is the old word count. If you're doing 1,000 words for an essay, that's a great thing to have. Add-ons are great. You get the capacity to do a whole lot of things with add-ons, which you couldn't do any other way. There's the list, the bullet numbers, and the numbered lists and the bullet lists are really handy. I'm not sure where the half hour's flown to this afternoon, but hopefully that's shown you a number of aspects in here that you can do to use and to collaborate and still have most of the functionality that Microsoft Word has. It does take a little while to think a little bit differently. Things are in the wrong spots, I guess, from a Microsoft Word point of view. But you basically can, if you are clever with it, achieve virtually everything you'd need to do. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. Hopefully we can see you in 2 weeks' time when we do a similar approach and have a look at Google presentations.